Hey guys, it's Elena. Today I wanted to do a tutorial that is inspired by the Japanese art of Kintsugi, which literally means golden joinery. So it's a concept that if pottery is broken, it can be joined together. Again, not trying to hide the fact that it broke, but actually celebrating that and joining it together with some beautiful golden joinery. So that's a concept that I wanted to explore in digital art. And I love this concept and this philosophy that broken pieces are actually beautiful. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to proceed with this project with my Acrylic Pour brushes for Procreate. And that's a brush set that I sell. However, I want to encourage you to use any brushes that you have. So I want to encourage you to explore the different materials that you have. So I wanted to do a canvas that is A3 in size. So I'm going to the plus button up here, and I'm going to make a new canvas using this folder button here. And A3 is measured in millimeters, so I'm going to change to millimeters here. And I'm going to put 420 here as the width, and 297 as the height. So this is A3 in landscape that we're going to be doing. And the DPI should be 300. And your maximum layers might be different depending on what iPad you have, but I think most iPads are able to do A3. And so let's go ahead and change that name to A3. Oh, there we go. So now we've got this new canvas. So now every time that I want to have an A3 canvas, this one that I created is going to come back up here. So I'm going to be using my amethyst palette for Procreate, and this is something that I offer for free. I'll put a link up on the screen for that. And you can use any palette that you want. I really want to encourage you to just go with whatever you feel you want to explore. So to start out with, what we want to do is to create some rather random areas that have some corners and that are just kind of, so that we have some areas to put different things into. First, I'm just going to select black in the color palette by double tapping on the wheel. And then I'm going to the standard Procreate calligraphy folder and choosing the monoline brush. And that is because I just want to create some different areas. I'm going to fairly randomly start scribbling lines across the screen and then crisscrossing different lines over each other to create a mosaic. So, oh, that is really big. Let's make it smaller. So I'm just going to come from the top and make a random line. And actually, I think I wanted a bigger piece over there, so I'm going to do it again. And another one over here. So now we've already created some different areas. We've got this, 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 this. And keeping in mind that I want a big blob over here, I'm going to do another line going up from here. And this is a really small little space. I'm not gonna put anything in that. I'm gonna cover it with gold eventually. So you don't have to be super precise about this. I did not like that actually. I kind of like how this is a triangle, so I'm going to keep that. I kind of like this, how there's a focal point over here as well. I had thought about having the focal point here, but I'm kind of liking where this is going. So I'm just going to add another one there so that we have more of a triangle, more triangles. And it's not important to make these lines pretty, because we're probably just going to cover them up with gold in the end. So this is just to create spaces. I'm kind of liking the idea of triangles down here and more like long skinny pieces over on this side. And you might have a completely different idea about what direction you want yours to go in. There is no right or wrong. That's the beauty of this. I just love this idea of Kintsugi and the philosophy that something that is broken doesn't need to be, the broken pieces don't need to be covered up. It needs to be celebrated as part of the history of that object. And I think this is just obviously has some application for humans as well. You know, instead of trying to hide the broken pieces, let's celebrate that. I like that a lot. Okay, so a little bit more. I'm just trying to kind of figure out when I want to stop here. Oh. This is getting very detailed, so I don't want to get too bogged down with details. I'm not actually a huge fan of this, so I'm just going to fix that with the eraser on airbrush. I'm going to erase this little, I'll actually make it the hard one. I'm going to erase this little bit and revisit it. And all these little imperfections are not going to be showing in the final piece. So going back, I'm going to try to redo this a bit. I like that a bit better. I think that I'm ready to start doing some artwork on this. Maybe I'll just do one more little line here. Okay. So I think I'm about ready making these compartments. Maybe I went a bit overboard with the details, but we'll see. So what we're going to do now, let's go to our layers and rename this. I'm just going to call it template. And so this is going to be where we take these areas, we select these areas, and then we move up to another layer and do some art inside of these areas. So let's rename that new layer as the art and just leave it at that. You could do each one in its own layer if you want to. I think I probably won't. And so let's just go ahead and get started with that. So let's do the ribbon tool and let's make sure that we're on the template layer actually. And go to the ribbon tool. And this is the selection tool. So under automatic, that's what we want to select and make sure the color fill is not on. And what we're going to do is we're going to select different areas. At the very beginning of doing this, you may have to adjust the threshold. And I have another video where I do this, and I think a lot of people have been confused about that. So I'm going to be very deliberate about this. But with the automatic selection, if you tap in an area, it might not look like that if you do it, because I have a certain threshold that Procreate is remembering. But what you do when you tap into an area is that when you slide, can you see this is moving here? And the threshold is going up and it's going down. And so it remembers the threshold. I don't know if you can see. Let me just show you up close. You can't really see it in a piece like this because it's all black and white. But if I tap in there and I'm moving up and I'm moving down, you can kind of see that the amount that's selected is changing ever so slightly. So I'm just going to keep the threshold at about 40%. And now every time I just tap, that same threshold is applied to that selection. So I hope that makes sense. You'll only have to do that the first time. when you're doing a project like this. But that is how you set the threshold for your selection. So with that said, I'm just going to select an area. I think I want to start, I think I'm going to save the big areas for now, and I'm just going to start with the smaller areas in order to sort of get into the groove. So with that selected, I'm still on my template layer. So the selection, you can see that these lines are everywhere except what I've selected. So I can only draw in here. So I'm going back to my art layer, and we still have that selection happening. Going to my pen or my brush, and we still have the selection. So I wanted to mess around with the Acrylic Pour brushes, and there's a link for this in the description if you are interested. You can use any brushes that you want and any colors that you want. And what the idea is that we're going to do is just to fill each of these areas with a different texture and a different color so that it looks like fragments of artwork that have been put together. So I mostly wanted to go with these first 8 brushes that have a texture in them. And I think I will choose number 4. And these brushes have a dual color tilt function in them. I'm probably not going to use that for this. I don't want to make things too complicated. So I'm just going to choose one color. So I want to just start with this nice dark purple, and let's just see how this looks in here. Yeah, I think that's interesting. So let's go back. Let's turn that off, hitting the ribbon, and go back to the template and select another area and do the same thing. Back to the selection. Let's go with this one. And now back to the art layer. Let's choose a different color. Maybe with the grayish one and a different brush. So this is just what we're going to do for this whole thing, just different colors, different brushes. And you can do actual artwork in these, and maybe we'll do that. You don't just have to fill it with a texture brush. You can do whatever you want. Let's just see how that looks. It's definitely interesting, but I think I actually want a darker color. Let's go with this super dark. See how that looks. I think that's kind of interesting. I might want to put that in a few different places. Same texture, same color, so that there is a bit of symmetry, but hopefully not too much. So I'm going back to the template, select tool. I feel like a lot of the long, thin pieces would look good with this texture. So I'm going to select this one, going back to the art layer, and same brush, same color. Put something in there. And I'll just do that with a few more. Okay, I think that's enough with that brush and texture for now. And I'm just going to go back to my template layer and choose what color to do next. I think I'd like to do more of a bright purple. And let's select an area that we want to do in bright purple. Keep coming back to this here, so I think I'm gonna just experiment with what we can do with that and a different brush. Let's try fluid pour number 2. I'm kind of liking how that is looking, but I think I'd actually like to add some cells in a darker color on top of it. I think I might go with the dense pressure cells instead. Go with number 1 and more of a beige color. This is a little bit less intrusive. Ooh, I like that. I think that's more interesting, maybe just a bit more up here. I'm just trying some different amounts of pressure. Starting areas. Gonna make it small over here. That might have been too much. No, I think I'm happy with that. I think that's okay. All right, so that was a bit more elaborate. We can do the big areas. I want to kind of do a bit more elaborate like that. So yeah, back to the template layer, ribbon tool. Let us select this one. Oops. And go back to the art layer, and I'd like for this to be light blue, bluish purple. Let me just have another look here. Let's go with number 7. Let's see how this looks. Oh, I like that very much. Let's go ahead and keep that. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we want to add here, maybe a bit more. I think this will look good when the gold is on the outside, so I'm just going to leave it. And I actually want to put that some other places too, because I'm liking how that looks. So let's just go ahead and put that in a few more areas. So now I'm thinking about that I've got a lot of cells here and here, and I want to have something that is completely different texture-wise here and also color-wise. So I'm thinking about these beige colors. And I might want to choose, well, we'll choose the color and we'll choose the brush in a minute. Let's go ahead and select this area. And back to the art layer, beige selected. Let's go to number 8. I like that very much. So let's go ahead and add that in a few other places as well. Okay, so something has just happened here that I wanted to bring attention to that might happen to you. This line here is not going all the way down to the other line, and this has resulted in everything getting filled. So this is very easy to fix if it happens. Just turn the selection off and go back to black and your monoline brush from standard Procreate brushes, and then just seal that up. There we go. So we do have a lot more of this peachy color over here, and that's deliberate. I didn't want to have it be too much of like one color here, and I'm thinking that we might want to have sort of an accent color here. So I'm not sure if I want to go with one from this palette. Actually, I might try to choose something totally different, because I'm thinking about this color here, but I want it to be a little bit pinker. So I chose this color from the Amethyst palette, went to the value tab, and I'm just going to turn the saturation up so that we have more of a burgundy, and then maybe make it a bit lighter. So if you want to just copy what I've got, it's you can just put the hexadecimal number in this slot here. You can just copy this. So with that color selected, I want it to be an accent color, and we'll see how it looks. I might decide to change it, but let's go ahead and select this big area. And I'm trying to think, what texture do I want in there? Maybe something kind of different, or maybe something with multiple colors. I think I will go with number 1 for now. Let's see how this looks. This is very similar to what I've already got going on, so I'm not going to go with that brush. Let's try number 2. I like that color there. I think it's an interesting focal point. So I'm going to keep the color, but I'm going to tweak some of this a little bit. I might just keep that brush and then add a little bit of this bluish gray in here. I'm going to take the blowtorch in white and then just sort of kind of tease the edges of this blue that I've added here. Just with some little tiny bubbles. I'm mostly just adding a little bit of texture here because I just always want to add more texture. It's a bit of an addiction. So I'm not using a lot of pressure here, and that's why I'm getting a sort of lighter amount of just barely there bubbles. I think I'm happy enough with that. I might add some gold accents on top of it later. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like that and just continue on. I think that this color is mostly just going to be here, but we might use it in just a couple of smaller areas, like here, maybe. Yeah. So I'm going back to that color I chose, the burgundy color, and template, selecting it, and just on we go. And I might just choose a different brush for this. I like that quite a lot, actually. I'll just do that in a couple more places. So now I think we don't have a lot of this purple with dynamic cells on it, so I'm gonna kind of duplicate that throughout here as well. So we have just a few areas left. And I think actually I want to make this one into the peach, and everything else will be something, a different color. So I think that was this color, and it was Fluid Pour 8. Okay, so everything else I kind of wanted to be in a dark blue color, similar to what I did here. I'm gonna try to remember what color. I think it was this one. And let's just go ahead and select an area. Going on to the art layer. Let's figure out what brush we want to use. I was kind of liking how Fluid Pour number 3 was coming out with these burgundy areas, so I'm going to try that. I like it, but I want to make it darker. So I'm going to my value tab again, moving the B slider down and the S slider up so that we have a nice navy blue. And again, you can copy this hexadecimal if you want to. Let's give that a go. I'm not sure about that. I'm gonna try a different brush in the same color. I might want to change actually the saturation just all the way up. I think I like that. So let's go with that. I'm kind of adding in more than one layer to make it a bit darker. I think I accidentally chose the arrow and then I moved things over a bit, so I'm just gonna undo that. There we go. Be aware of that happening. Maybe you guys have got, oops, maybe you guys have got better, fingers that don't go have a mind of their own like mine, but something that happens to me. Okay, I think that we have filled in all these colors now. So what I wanted to do now that we've filled in some texture everywhere, is that we will add a new layer, and we'll name that metallic. And I wanted to do the lining in a gold color, so we'll continue with that. Okay, so for the metallics, it is important that we are in a separate layer, because if they are in the same layer as the art, they will change color no matter depending on what you are drawing on top of. So it's very important to make sure they're in a separate layer so we have consistent and accurate color. And for the gold edges, you could use any metallic brush that you might have. There is also one in the Acrylic Pour set, the gilding leaf. Ultimately, I wanted to use a different brush that is in my Gold Rush brush set, and I'll put the link for that one down below as well. But it's a gold leaf brush, and this is a color from the palette that comes with Gold Rush, but I will go ahead and give you the hex number right here, 6C4D36. So if you want to use this exact color, you just add this one in under the value tab. And so I have turned off the background because I don't want it I don't want this black showing through. I don't want that to be part of the piece in the end. So I'm just going to turn off the template layer, and on my metallic layer, I will go ahead and trace along all of these lines, and then we might add some more different metallic effects afterwards. I'm trying to use pressure kind of randomly like I usually do to just make this look a little different size-wise. So it's not just a consistent line. And that's completely a matter of preference, whatever you think looks best. Anytime that the white line is showing through, I'm just kind of going over the spot again. So there we have it. I think I'm happy with the metallic lines as they are, and something that I might do differently next time is make the lines a little bit thinner so that I could make the metallic really thin. I'd love to experiment with other color palettes and different kinds of textures as well. And I hope that you enjoyed this idea and can find some inspiration to go and create. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.